This is your before and after story. Instead of imagining a rewarding career in medical imaging, Southeastern College can actually take you there. Prepare for a career in ultrasound, radiology, and X-ray technology with hands-on specialized training, simulations, and real-life experience with the latest imaging technology. You'll be ready to play a vital role on any healthcare team. Transform your life by helping others. Southeastern College. Your future is bright. Visit scc.edu to get started.
Lowe's knows that more projects mean more tools. For a limited time, new and existing MyLowe's Rewards credit card members can get 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more, in-store and online. Don't wait to get the things you need. Get special financing today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Now through August 27th, choose 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more. Offer subject to credit approval and cannot be combined. Minimum monthly payments required. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
You're watching Worldview Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is the Tamara Scott Show. I am Tamara Scott, where we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. We also tell you we try not to get caught up in those headlines because if we learn nothing else in 2020, there are those who would do all they can to confuse us, to cause us to be fearful, to cause us to be vulnerable, so we are malleable. And on this show, we want to help you stay focused and do what you need to do in the best interest of your family, for your future, for your family, for your freedom, and for your faith. And so we'll talk about the headlines. We also don't get sidetracked or sidelined by them. I am going to touch back. Yesterday, we did talk about the Epstein files. A week earlier, Brandon had played the clip on our show about the cabinet meeting. I'm understanding that we're not going to please all of you on this, but let me just say this. Some of you have since called it a conspiracy theory, what our guest talked about. I don't think so. I guess you can call it a conspiracy theory, but when he's talking about possibilities is what I would say. And you know I'm not afraid of a conspiracy theory. I've got my tinfoil tiara, right? I won't wear a tinfoil hat, but I do occasionally don a tinfoil tiara made for you, our lovely viewers. I don't know if I'm too tall for you to see it. Made for you, our lovely viewers, because I need new conspiracy theories. Mine kept coming true, right? So we're going to need some new ones. But on this issue, I don't think he was talking about a conspiracy theory. He was talking about a theory, a possibility, and that maybe there's so much more behind this. We've since heard that others are saying Trump is protecting some folks on the list who would be misused. The list was corrupted. Remember, I believe the list was in some of the one FBI office in New York, and they were not complying with the orders of the new administration. So we don't know if it's been corrupt. We just don't know. But as I said, and Laura Trump has also said, we need transparency. I appreciate that she's saying the same thing I am. We need transparency. Every candidate runs on accountability and transparency. And as I said, this president of any, I think, can handle it. And I think he will. I think there's more to come. I found the topic yesterday very interesting. I think it is a huge possibility that Trump has figured out there's more. It's not just Epstein. He's just a person that was created by all of those who are controlling behind him. What are they after? And can we take them out as a force? That would be wonderful for all of us. And we're not in any way saying that we don't want the victims to have justice. We said that throughout the show. We want the victims to have justice. We want each of them to have justice. But wouldn't it be great in the process if we can take out the bigger force behind the Epstein? As well, Genesis 50:20, that God can use for good what others mean for harm. I absolutely love that idea. And I think it also protects the victims even more if Trump can do something like this. I don't know if that's what he's planning. I think it's a great idea, and I'm hopeful that that is what is behind it. That said, we're going to continue to watch, investigate, and hold accountable those who ran for office and those who are in office, those who are appointed and otherwise, and we will continue to hold them accountable. But as our guest said, we're also going to allow them to frailty of being humans, of misspeaking, of saying something that wasn't maybe handled well. We're not going to get caught up and distracted by that, by the left of the mission at hand, by those on the right, in the right places at the right time. All right, moving forward. In all of this, whether it's the headlines from 2020, whether it's a virus, a vaccine, all of these things that seem to come at us, as we say in the show, the headlines seem to come more harshly, and they seem to be harsher. They come more hastily. That's a lot to deal with in today's world. And so I was scrolling through, as I'm always looking for topics, things to talk about on the show, guests, guides. I ran across, I think somebody must have posted it, but a video by Rochelle Walsh. So I looked at a couple more. I liked what I heard. It wasn't anything about pills. It wasn't anything about blame. It wasn't anything about victimhood. It was about overcoming positively and using our own strength to do it, and maybe our faith. And so I called her, and we got a hold of each other, and I was just very pleased. And I asked her to join us today. So I'm getting to meet her for the first time as well. But Rochelle Welsh, thank you for being brave enough to join me on the Tamara Scott Show today.
Sure. Glad to be here, Tamara. Thank you for having me.
So tell our viewers, I see the initials behind your name, LSCSW. What is that?
Correct. Well, by training, I'm a licensed clinical social work. So I've been in I had a private practice since 1999, and I had a specialty in complex trauma. We did a lot of EMDR, which is strategy for resolving trauma in the brain and in the nervous system. And so that's the LSCSW is my clinical license that I hold.
I wish I would have known you years ago when my mother suffered a trauma. And there's so much to learn here. Is this a relatively new field? Because I don't think we've really explored or discussed or even allowed the thought of what happens to someone in a trauma and how they may respond or how it may impact them.
I think there's as with anything, there's more research as you go on. But I think, the field of specializing in trauma goes back decades, and it's just kind of a sub area. Some people specialize in parenting, some people specialize in trauma, but we're always learning more about the brain and the nervous system and how really the body and the physical are impacted by the mind. So I think just maybe the understanding of how trauma imprints itself on a person, as well as, I think everything that we learn in science, the things that work because they're consistent with biblical truth. So you could say the science is new, but it goes back to renewing the mind.
Absolutely.
And so it's a biblical concept. It's not anything that's new agey or created by science. It's just the science reveals what God's truth says about our mind, about our nervous system. And I think that, we learn a lot from that. And then there's things that they couldn't do decades ago, brain scans and things like that can show a difference in how somebody's brain looks when they've had a lot of trauma, as opposed to the way a brain scan looks when someone is in a relaxed state the majority of the time.
And so, as I mentioned earlier, the headlines, it just seems like there are those, whoever they are, deep state, whatever people want to think, the oligarch, whoever it may be, but just want to keep us just on a fervor. Maybe media just does it innocently because they're just trying to keep the headlines abuzz so that people tune in or want to stay tuned in. But it just seems to raise, I don't know if it's cortisol or whatever it is, but we seem to be dealing with that heightened sense of stress upon people, burnout. I think it's spiritual warfare myself a little bit. Is this, do you see it?
Absolutely. And I think, since 2020, especially, higher rates, but really high rates going way back even before 2020. But, of course, we know that headlines, like you say, grab our attention. And so understanding the balance for a lot of people, probably between how much information is important in order to stay informed and to know how to be aware of things that pose threats to us, and yet knowing what to do with that information,
willing to make mistakes.
balancing it. And then some people, like we saw with, what happened in Texas last year, or, with COVID, when you have news stories, people that have an underlying imprint of trauma are more susceptible to the impact of secondary trauma. So when they hear the headlines and they see images over and over again, if their nervous system and their amygdala, the fight or flight kind of center of the brain, already has a lot of activity, that they are more susceptible to having heightened stress response in reaction to what they're hearing and what they're being exposed to in their environment, which is kind of what I always tell people, is that, when we work from an inside out perspective on calming the nervous system, then we can regulate from the inside out, as opposed to having a stress response in reaction to everything that's going on, whether that's in our job, in our families, or in the news headlines. So I think it's super important for people to get to being from a calmer state from within, so that they are less reactive to what's going on in the world around us.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're crushing morning miles or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fight or flight, and we've got some slides. I think I can probably. I don't think we can do it now, because we're not going to be able to go through the slides with the visuals for everybody, but we can read through those slides.
Sure.
Of a master class you gave on this just not too long ago in May. We'll get to that, I think, maybe after our break here shortly. But for every parent out there, I just see it. Not only in the headlines, but the pace we're asked to keep, the schedules, the bills that people are forced to meet, just the weight that is on the average parent, the weight that is on the average grandparent, even. It doesn't seem to go away. And so I think why I wanted to bring Rochelle on today for everyone is I just think we need to take control again. We need to get control of ourselves. We need to be able to manage. We see it in our children. A lot of what we're dealing with is they're not being taught to manage emotions, to manage schedules, to discipline themselves. And so I think that's key. And I think we've kind of forgotten it. And as you know, this is me as the host, and this is not for my guest. But as me as a host, I want to find every solution possible that is not pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
Because so many of the pharmaceutical helps have other adverse reactions, or you need to then later take another pill upon another pill upon another pill. So I see you shaking your head. Yes, I didn't want to.
Absolutely. I mean, no judgment on anyone who has taken them or is on them, but I just think very, very rarely is it an answer, because it doesn't really address the underlying problem. And I really think that a lot of the traditional medical model has the thing where we slap a diagnosis on someone that defines symptoms, gives them a pill, but it doesn't address the underlying issue, and it leaves people with a kind of a broken brain type, like there's just something in me, and they start to own that, whether that's a diagnosis of depression or anxiety or personality disorder, or the things that have happened to them, and they start to attach themselves or become attached, not to that they did it intentionally, but based on a diagnosis and a medication, that's just who they are, and that's just how they respond to life, rather than recognizing they can change. And so again, yeah, I agree with you. No judgment on people who've taken medication or have been given medication, but I think the vast majority of time, it's not the answer, and it kind of boxes people in something that's not their identity. Truly.
As we've said on the show, when we label something, It's to allow us to live with it. We've got to stop that. It normalizes it so that we live with it. And we've got to quit settling. We've got to go to break. We'll be right back. Rochelle Walsh is my guest. And I'm so delighted to have her today. Stay tuned because I don't care how well you think you've got it together. You may know somebody else who's going to need a few tips, who's just going to need a little lift up. Let's see what we can do to help them with that. Stay tuned.
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
All right. Thanks for staying with us. As you know, we usually offer you the Bella Grace. You can go to Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com, Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. In this little sachet is the powerful elixir of collagen, cat's claw, and astaxanthin. Together, these 3 ingredients and a few more got an award in 2022 for cognitive function, helping with cognitive function. And in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. What I love about them is this is it. It's no powder, no mixing, no measuring, no having to drink a whole beverage I don't want. This is it. I just rip it, I sip it, and I flip it in the trash. It's that simple. I keep them with me in the car. I keep them with me in the studio. I keep them with me when I travel, and then I'm done. It's just so easy that I stay on schedule because I can keep them with me even when I forget. But the beauty of it is what many of you are noticing. You sent us your comments on what you were seeing. And for many of you, it was better joint health, improved mobility, improved immunity, stress management, endurance, less fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. I noticed when some of you said it, I had seen a help with my dry eyes, with the strain and the fatigue, and I couldn't figure out what it was until some of you mentioned it. And I realized this is the only thing that I'd done different. This helped with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, and depth perception. And as I said, alleviating dry eyes. Then there's that fun list. The fewer fine lines and wrinkles, helping with skin elasticity, decreased age spots, all of those fun things that you are noticing. You can call them beauty, you can call them cosmetic, but maybe they're byproducts of being healthier. You can find more information at Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. And because it is a direct marketing plan, you can even earn rewards back when you become an ambassador, help fund a ministry or a cause, or a little extra to help with your gas or your grocery bill, however you want to use it. All right, I'm talking with Rochelle Walsh. We're just talking about getting ourselves in the strongest position we can, I would say physically, mentally, emotionally. You talk about neuroplasticity, plasticity, which I can't even say it.
Yeah.
But Dr. Linda Johnson is one of the folks who I first talked to on homeopathy and kind of moving away from pharmaceuticals. And she talks a lot about this as well. Talk to us just about this a little bit, the neuroplasticity, how we can correct ourselves.
Yeah, so neuroplasticity basically refers to our brain's ability to form new synaptic connections in response to learning. So we can establish new pathways. So a quick illustration would be, I've always written with my right hand. So there is this neural network that supports me writing with my right hand. And if I, were to lose my right hand through building new connections, it would be awkward and uncomfortable at first, but I could learn to build the new connections to write with my left hand. So, with neuroplasticity, this is kind of what you were saying about that our mindset doesn't need to be fixed. There's a lot of things we accept that we have, because our mind has been influenced by how we've been brought up, what we've been fed by culture, the patterns that it's been in. So it's become, these neural pathways have become habituated in the mind. And in the subconscious mind, this lower part of our brain that works on our, in our autonomic nervous system. So like when people say, all of a sudden this just happened and it's a repetitive behavior, or every day when we get up, we get dressed in exactly the same way, we make our coffee the same way. It's just a habitualized set of patterns of beliefs, emotional responses, and thought patterns that are a lot of times out of our awareness. But neuroplasticity says we can change that. God gives us a new set of neurons every day. We can repattern those and we can build new neural networks every single day with repetition. Our brains are capable of doing that. And so that's what that refers to. And that's why nobody should feel boxed in by a diagnosis or something that's come from a past trauma or conditioning.
Yeah, I'm seeing it firsthand. Having a spouse who suffered a stroke in May, we are seeing it firsthand. We were very, very blessed that God had his hand upon him. A very limited sign that you would even know, but he knows. And so he's been doing occupational therapy. And this is now a new area of interest for us, this neuroplasticity. Because we're seeing it in motion. We're absolutely seeing it in motion. All right. So for all of us out there, we know that it takes time, habits. You have to break a habit. You have to make a habit. All right. So you just gave a masterclass. And for folks who want to find you, tell them the name of your website.
Joyfulandpresent.com.
That in itself, right? Just imagine if we just all went around life joyful and present rather than surviving and just making it. All right. So
yes,
to build a habit for the nervous system, we've kind of talked about this with the neuroplasticity already. The stress release over mindset. So you're saying prioritize body-based stress relief over mindset. How does that happen?
Okay, this is super. I'm so glad that you asked this because I think it could free a lot of people up if they truly understood this. It doesn't mean that it's easy, because as we know, like you said, changing patterns and habits can take, if someone were going to run a marathon, it would be maybe a fairly simple formula, run a little more every day, but that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Because it takes some consistency. But the reason I say body-based over, mindset is the deeper programs of the mind, like why we instantly interpret a situation one way over the other, or the way we automatically do something, our habits, the way we respond. Those things are in the subconscious brain, okay? And so when we are in a stress response, we're responding out of reaction rather than being able to take our wise brain. What do I know? Align with.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
All right, I think we're back. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, and sometimes I just call them flat out techno demons. We're dealing with this, and I'll just say our guest is handling this beautifully, putting into practice what she's talking to us about today, not getting flustered and just dealing with what is it, rolling with the punches. That's what we used to call it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
All right, so I apologize for that, Rochelle, but if you want to go back into your explanation.
Yeah, well, just, I think when we're not in a fight or flight state, that's where we can really make those deeper level mindset changes, not just what I think I should think, but how I actually feel different in a situation, and my automatic responses change. And so when I say go through the body first, if you look at the things that not only science says, but that scripture says, stillness and the breath are two of the most powerful things that we have within us that can really calm the nervous system. And a lot of times I think when people feel like, well, when I get flustered or when I get anxious, I try to take a deep breath. So they're doing it in response, but they're really not maybe practicing it as a pattern. And so when we look at really calming the nervous system, it takes at least 15 minutes a day of being in that calmer state and doing that consistently so that we can build those new neural networks, so that we're not just using it as, let's say, a fire extinguisher to put out the flame, but we're actually building that calm state from within. We're really changing those underlying patterns of response, because so many people, whether it comes from early trauma or if they've just been in, like you said, our schedules, the demands put on us, all the lights we have, the electronics, the busy work schedules, we don't go down with the sun anymore like we were designed to. So we've been in a pattern of that for so long. And a lot of times people will say, but I've never had anxiety. And now do I have adrenal fatigue and all these things? But a lot of times people have been in high production, pleasing, and performance mode for years. So they've been in a high stress mode for years, and that go, go, go has been habituated. And so stillness is very hard for them. Quiet is very challenging for them. So those things, the breath and stillness, when we can do that daily, consistently, then we kind of open the door to that subconscious mind and we can reprogram. Maybe there's a program in there that says, when I'm in control, I feel safe. When I'm achieving, I feel worth. Things that they might not believe up here with the wise brain, but they're programs that are built in that keep them stuck in overdrive.
Thank you so much for that. And just as you're saying, as you build for a marathon, my son recently said, anybody can run 3 miles, Mom. And I just laughed and thought, I don't know that I could, but for most of us to practice, you would build up. And so you're saying start with 15 minutes a day in that calm world and build up to it. All right. There's so many questions while you're talking and I don't want to interrupt. And then my own brain, I kind of forget them a little bit. I was going to have a step away from this for just a minute. And I was going to ask you about, I'm not sure, it will come back. Be prepared. It will come back. All right. So instead of occasional relief, this retraining helps it becomes regular for us. It becomes that habit, becomes the life for us. All right. Maybe this was it. I'm not sure. Just getting away. We call it grounding, walking outside and barefoot in the grass, unplugging, getting away from the EMFs, all the electronics. It just at night. I'm thankful I live in an area where I can go outside at 1 o'clock in the morning. I can look at the stars. I can worship my creator and just honor him for what I see in front of me as I hear the crickets chirp, as I hear the frogs. And to me, that is such peace. I don't know what somebody does in town. Other people may thrive on the busyness of a city. I used to think I did. And so, okay, I remember my other question. It was on the pleasing road. We'll come back to that.
Yes.
But on this one, for those folks who can't get away like I can, that's my peace. Out with a horse, that's my peace. what do others do? Do they need to find something, or can they do it in their apartment, in their high rise? What do they do?
You can do it anywhere, Tamara. So what you're saying is there's some links built in your brain that says, and obviously, I think we were designed to be at one with nature. So I think grounding for everybody is helpful. Nature is generally helpful for everyone, and yet not everybody feels that when they're in nature. And so finding something, whether that the power of our God has given our mind the power of imagination. That's why guided visualization. So even if someone can't go out in nature, they can create in their mind nature, and your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the imagination and what's really happening, which is why we're so reactive to worst case scenarios that play out in our mind sometimes, if we're not careful, can, cause that stress response. But finding something, and really it is linking to that state within. And that's achievable for everybody in every situation. Paul had that in prison, in chains. So it is within us that we can find. And so practicing that. And the problem that can I just say this real quick, because I know there might be some of your listeners who say, I can't do that. I can't stand to be still. It's very hard for people when I say to practice that initially, that 15 minutes. And the reason is, in that subconscious brain, a lot of people have programs that say, if I relax, something bad will happen. If I'm not in control, I will not be safe. So oftentimes when people try to do relaxation strategies, it actually drives their anxiety a little bit higher, because as their body starts to relax, there might be something in that subconscious brain that says, danger, danger, you can't protect yourself when you're relaxed. So sleep disturbances, things like that, people can't fall all the way asleep, or they fear planes because they're not in control. So for a lot of people, when they move into these relaxation strategies like you're able to do, and their body starts to relax, they get a little bit of kickback, and their body says, no, 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 get busy, or their thoughts aren't able to be still enough to really allow their body to relax. And so that's, why we teach things incrementally. And so those practices that you are describing are helpful for everybody, great for everybody. It's just some people will have a little bit more challenge getting there. And that's when we don't want them to think that they're broken or there's something wrong with them. We want to say, how has your mind conformed to things that now it's kind of stuck in the past, and can it be safe for you now? So I hope that explanation makes sense.
Yeah, and it may be something different, totally different for everyone else. I'm looking at a slide in the bubble bath or journaling. Journaling would not be my thing. For some of you, it may be rock climbing. You may love being on the peak and up in that. I know some of you enjoy this. To me, that would be extremely stressful, and the anxiety would be very, very high.
Right.
So it may be different for all of us. All right, we've got to go to break. We'll be right back. Rochelle Walsh is my guest. WALSH is my guest today. You can find her at joyfulandpresent.com. Joyfulandpresent.com. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
And we've got the new meat. Now we offer you different products. Here's why. You all have different preferences. Your bodies respond differently. This is what they call NutriSwish. I call it swish and swallow. You swish these just like a mouthwash for 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 30, whatever you want to do, 30 seconds, whatever, and then swallow. Now, it's that simple. The lavender's for ladies. No matter where you're at in your journey, this will help you. It does not have any hormonal supplements in it, but if you're taking some, you might want to check with your doctor just to make sure that there's no issue. The blue bottle is the glutathione. The glutathione it has the glutathione in it, which apparently is something you need if you're oxygen based, which we are. You would not survive 3 to 7 minutes without it. It also is an antioxidant. It helps with 400 cellular functions in your body. I will tell you, I felt it immediately. On the Bella Grace, it took me some time. I think my body was so depleted. It took me some time. This, I felt it immediately. And so that glutathione also helps detox, which is very important to a lot of people right now. It helps detox graphene oxide, something you recognize in the last 4 years, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, and glyphosate, an ingredient in ag products. If we said the name, you would know exactly which products we're talking about. There's concerns about links to cancers and diabetes and HPVs. So this helps detox. The glutathione helps detox the glyphosate, the graphene oxide, forever chemicals, and heavy metals. And then you see the photo here with the mango colored. This is their newer product, Numi Neuro. Numi Neuro helps with mind, memory, and focus. Something some folks are concerned about, whether it was a virus or a vaccine, the cause, no one knows. Maybe it's busyness, maybe it's stress, maybe it's anxiety. But this is to help a little bit with the focus, the memory. When used together with the blue bottle, the results were so good that the American Brain Council apparently wrote something so positive that it appears as an endorsement. I'm told they don't get involved and don't do endorsements very often, but people are saying what they wrote is every bit as positive as an endorsement. So there you go. You can figure it for yourself. You can go to NUMI.com/TTSS. NUMI.com/TTSS. Why? Because we want you feeling your best so you can best take care of your family. I'm talking with Michelle Walsh. I'm so pleased to have her in the studio today. I'm so pleased to learn about her. Again, let me just say it in my own words. She's not pushing anything. She's not pushing any pharmaceutical product. She's not pushing any expensive program that I've seen. She's just helping us stand on the gifts that God's given us, a faith-based understanding of our bodies as we're talking about the neurosystems and nervous systems. I hope I'm saying that well, Rochelle, but that's what I've seen in the little that I have kind of researched too.
Yes. I mean, I do have a coaching program for women, but we're not talking about that on this show. And, I think that it boils down to the things that people can really do to create new nervous system pathways and restore their system to a state of calm and eliminate chronic stress and overwhelm are all things that people have within them. Just like anybody, some people want support doing that and they need some guidance and accountability, but God really did give us the resources within to be able to get to that state. We're just influenced by a lot of interruptions, and we have a lot of imprints in our nervous system, in our brain, in our minds, that interfere with that. And so we help women remove the barriers to get to what they already have within them.
Well, remember, God won't bring you to anything He won't carry you through, right? That's just so true. And I get sometimes we need a little extra help from somebody else or somebody to help us snap back into some good action, good plans. But He will carry us through when we call upon Him. There's no greater help. I believe that. All right. So you mentioned earlier the pleasing mode. This is something I'd not heard about. There are a lot of these videos on Facebook that always talk about how when someone is this, when someone is a pleaser, it's talking about trauma of the childhood. As a mother, I'm like, I did my best, and I just everything they do is always blaming the childhood. It almost seems like they're always trying to separate us from our family members, whether it's me as an adult looking back at my childhood or my kids now looking at their childhood. What is this pleasing mode that people are talking about?
So for everyone, the way we are designed, connection is very important to us. Attachment is very important. We were designed like that. Speaking generations back, if you weren't part of the tribe, you would die, right? I mean, we survive in connection with other people. And so that attachment relationship with caregivers is for everybody a normal and healthy thing, and helps our nervous system feel safe when we feel safely connected. So there's nothing dysfunctional about wanting to please other people or wanting belonging or wanting to connect to other people. I think when you hear that in social media, you're talking about people who they've become very disconnected from their own experience, and setting any kind of boundary, speaking any kind of truth, having any kind of conflict with anyone, or having balance in their work life, or setting a limit with their children who then become upset. The pleasing is so compulsive, and they feel unsafe when they don't do it. They get such anxiety when they're not pleasing that it's perpetual people pleasing, and it takes them away from their own authentic expression and makes it hard for them to have boundaries. So I hope that explains that part. I want to speak real closely to what you said about the childhood. The way I address that, and I understand, and as a complex trauma therapist, when we would ask about what was your childhood like, what was your experience with your mom or dad, it's so important for understanding the imprints there. But I always like to tell people, we look at the past as making sense of why some things might be there, but understanding we have responsibility to make choices in our life. So someone might say, well, when I was 2, my brother had cancer and my parents were always gone. And so they weren't really, I suppressed my own needs and maybe didn't have a lot of connection at that time because I was busy trying to be a young adult at the age of this. And so I became hyper responsible. That's an explanation. But we're not in the past, we're in now. And 100% of the things that have already happened, we survived. So now it's, what do I need to relearn? What do I need to release? What needs to be different moving forward so that I can have that post-traumatic growth rather than being stuck in something that happened to me in my childhood. I hope that explains a little bit.
Yep. No, thank you so much. I do think that as people call us scrollers, whatever, when you're scrolling through all those, you need to be careful which ones you watch, which ones you don't watch, what you're allowing to fill we used to sing a song, be careful little eyes, what you see, be careful little ears, what you hear. And so.
Absolutely, because really on social media, and I am on social media. I never really was until I started expanding my business in new ways. And it's a great platform for getting new information. When our daughter had a brain injury, we were gathering information it was great to have the internet, but you do have to be careful what you see. And also how much of my time am I spending absorbed in someone else's life? And is that encouraging me to take action? Does that encourage me to say that, I want to overcome that, or I would like to do this, and then implementing that in our own life rather than being stuck kind of checking out of our own life, scrolling on social media. I think that's a really important point you just brought up.
Thank you for that. And I know I told you I wanted to kind of go through your slides, and we kind of have, but we've gone so many different rabbit trails. I thank you for just following me through all those questions. And let me ask you about this. Is stress an addiction? Because there was a time when I just enjoyed having a deadline, having a little stress. I felt like I was sharp. And you talked about this a little bit earlier today, but then it becomes an addiction. But then you mentioned adrenal fatigue, and I don't know if most people understand what that is.
Right. So absolutely, stress is an addiction because there is a chemical reaction that happens in our body when we're in that stress response. And so our body gets habituated to getting that chemical surge of cortisol, adrenaline, many other things, many different chemical reactions, too many for me to name or that I don't even know, happen in the body when we have that stress response. So yes, our body adapts to that and becomes conditioned to it. But that's another point about understanding that we can unlearn that. So I drink coffee every morning. My body has habituated to getting caffeine in the morning. And if I didn't get it, my body would say, hey, you forgot your caffeine this morning. But does that mean God created me to be caffeinated? He didn't. I've just habituated to it. And we've habituated to stress. And so it is an addiction in terms of our body gets used to that and then demands more, just like sugar. We're all probably, many of us, addicted to sugar. And if we haven't had it, we start getting something, or carbs. We get a headache if we don't have them. And so we can relearn things, but to understand that that's why patterns take time and consistency to change so that our body can become habituated to a new norm is really important.
And so part of the reason I wanted to have you on today is everyone talks about how busy they are. Everybody talks and acts like they're just under pressure. All retired folks,
right,
under pressure all the time. New moms, I can't imagine. I wish I could tell moms, learn from what I had to learn. Say no.
Yes.
All of these things you have to take your kids to are not things you have to take your kids to.
Right.
Decide which ones are important for your family, which ones are going to be fruitful for your kids. It doesn't mean that soccer is going to be the one they're going to play as a professional player. It may be teaching them discipline right now. It may be good for them right now. But if it doesn't fit in your schedule, if they've got 5 other sports, 3 they like better, then soccer may not be the one. Figure out what it is that's good or not good for you. And so I'm saying this because I hear moms in their stores. I hear moms, and this is not new, but it's gotten worse. The tone that they say to their kids, the things that they say back to their kids, we would tell our children not to use that tone with us. We can't be surprised when that's all they hear from us.
Right. I think that's such an important point you bring up, Tamara, but one of the things, and I just pronounced your name wrong. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Tamara?
Tamara.
No, it's Tamara. It's Tamara, but I don't correct my guests because I hear it all kinds of ways.
Okay.
Here's what I listen for. If someone sounds mad at me, then I ignore it.
Yes. Well, the reason a lot of people know I'm overscheduled and I'm working too much and I'm not setting boundaries with my children is they know up here with their wise brain, it would make sense, or we can't possibly take on one more thing. And yet I find myself doing it is because they haven't fixed that internal program and they don't know how to move through the emotions that come up. So if I say no, then they feel guilty. And so they say, I can't say no because then they were unhappy with me, so I caved. Or I felt like a bad mom because even though I knew we didn't have the money to spend on this, I did it because of this. Or I know that my job is, my mind is racing and I want to be present, joyful and present, the name of our program, because a lot of women they feel like even when they're on vacation or they're home with their kids, maybe they're not present because they're still thinking about the to-do list. And they know that they're successful at work and they're meeting the mark, but something in them says you should always be doing more. It's not okay to relax. And so we work on an inside out approach, which is getting to that stillness so that they can have the discernment and also move through the body emotions. What does that feel like when you set a boundary or you say no and someone's disappointed in you? Or you know that maybe there's one more thing you could do at work and yet you can't shut it off or your mind is racing at night. So I think a lot of women know that their schedule is too full or that they need to cut back or say no or make some changes, but the emotional state feels so unmanageable when they try to make those changes that then they revert back to what feels comfortable and familiar. Does that resonate?
Yes. Well, it's too easy. It's too easy to snap. And the thing is, we know this, we teach our kids this. Once you've snapped and said it, you can't take it back.
Right. And when we're in fight or flight, when we're in that high stress mode, irritability, burnout, that's initially one of those phases when we're in that it's gone on for too long. We're designed to be able to have a stress response and get out of danger, get out of the burning building, get through the presentation we're doing, but we're not designed to live in that state. And when it's prolonged, that fight or flight leads us to be very irritable. It starts to actually cause malfunction in our prefrontal cortex. So we're not as intentional with our words and with our actions. And so there's a lot of things that your brain just isn't working as well. You are not able to operate as effectively as you want to. So you may then lay in bed at night regretting, I wish I had said that differently. I didn't mean to say that, or it's not what I intended. But as you just pointed out, it's it's said, and so getting to that underlying issue to where we can calm that stress response allows women to align their actions, their word, their tone more to who they are and what they know to be true.
There's so much more here. Rochelle, I want to thank you for coming on today. We've given you a not very good welcome and hospitality on the way we do things around here.
Thank you for having me.
But we got to skip our third break, so I wasn't even watching my clock, and here we are out of time. So I just want to thank you for coming on. I'll give you like 30 seconds to a minute to say something to our viewers on the way out. I want to give you a closing statement.
I really think just probably your viewers are already doing a lot of the important things, becoming aware. And just like on your show, you make them aware of issues that maybe they don't think about, and just to really be discerning. And I teach my ladies the same thing. Just be aware and learn and be intentional. And if there's something you want to change, take action on changing it.
Joyfulandpresent.com, joyfulandpresent.com. Rochelle Walsh has been totally pleasant in my getting to know her. I've enjoyed every conversation and text. To everybody out there, we do talk about so much. We talk to you about the headlines when they hit home. All the more reason you need to be grounded and founded. Grounded in the word and founded in what you believe, knowing who is in control and what is truthful, what is honest. When you have that basis, I just think it's a lot more difficult for somebody to throw you off course. And I think it's much easier for you to help raise your family in a godly way. I'll tell you what, when I have Christian music on in the car, or I'm listening to something in the car, I'm less likely to spout off or respond inappropriately when something happens. Grace. And so we there's so much more here we haven't even gotten into. We are just peeling back the layers bit by bit. But I thank you for being with us, Rochelle. And to everybody out there, thank you for loving your family, doing the best you can. Never condemn. That is from Satan. The Holy Spirit will convict so that you can ask for forgiveness and remove it, cleanse it, and move forward. Redeem it. That's what we're after. That's what we're after. Then you're untouchable from the enemy. That's what we want. Helping you survive, helping you conquer. We're made more than conquerors. So thank you for following along. We tell you to live boldly, love better, laugh bigger. Be encouraged, but never be complacent.
Yeah. Thank you.